So, when dating, are you talking through expectations or are you just vibing your way into confusion? Because dating is we're just asking the wrong questions. And trust me, I'm right there with you. I get it 100%. This is Dating Like You Mean It, where we walk through 3 different questions at 3 different phases of a new connection. Because clarity should be a part of the fun, not something you find out after conflict and confusion. And for my couples who are already locked in, we'll always end with a question that's worth revisiting. Because you should never stop asking each other questions. Okay, so the first phase we'll always discuss will be the first date, and to align with this theme about expectations or being silent about expectations, the first question I believe you should ask should be, what's something people usually get wrong about you at first? Great thing about this question is that first, it shows you, has this person reflected on themselves? Is this person often misunderstood with how they show up in dating or how they show up with just meeting someone new? Or is it something chronic that they deal with? Are they always misunderstood? Do they always feel judged? Which can be helpful in a way of understanding, okay, like I need to make sure I take the time to really understand them. Or it can be helpful to know if they are someone that's maybe triggered or maybe they feel bothered by the fact that they're not understood, which could also bring out some issues or concerns. So that's something that you could maybe start reading the room from by hearing the answers to this question. And also, someone being able to reflect and be introspective and kind of look at how they're being misunderstood, that can show a really, really strong emotional intellect and emotional maturity. So that could be a win for you to notice. And just the fact that they're curious about themselves and they're curious to even understand why people maybe misunderstand them, that could be something that shows that they actually are really open to maybe discussions and maybe asking, what is it about me that makes you think a certain thing? Or what do I do to where you felt I would come off this way? That curiosity leads itself to that they'll probably be open to having real deep conversations. And yet again, that they're self-aware and that they self-reflect. While if they come off very defensive in their answer, or they explain that they're usually misunderstood, but it comes off very blaming to the person, or very much like people should understand them, it can show you their more defensive nature. It can show you more that they tend to point blame at others. Because if you are being misunderstood, then what about you is causing people to believe that? And even though perception shouldn't be reality, perception is reality. So why are people perceiving you to be a certain way or not perceiving you to be a certain way? I think we all can acknowledge what role we play and how someone perceives us, whether it's good or bad. That's just the way the world is. For instance, I know for some people that I come off very chatty, very talkative, very vibrant in certain ways. So people may think that I am like an attention seeker and I just want attention. I'm an attention hog. When honestly, like, yes, I like attention, but I'm not one of those people that crave it and that, like, I will take the attention from a room. I just like to talk and like to have conversations, and I honestly feel like it makes me more comfortable when there isn't silence. So if I was answering this question, I would basically say, I know that sometimes I can come off very intense, very talkative, very, very, very social in a way that may come off that I'm seeking attention. But honestly, I just really like to talk. It comforts me. That's my happy place. I love connecting with other humans. So that's really what it is about. And my goal is never to make someone feel that I'm taking attention away. I've actually worked on, in therapy, and this is actually true, I really worked on being an active listener. I've done exercises with my therapist over the years on how I can pause and listen better, what questions to ask people so that you stay engaged in the conversations, you stay active in listening. So I've taken those steps to also show that I can be an active listener and that my goal is not to take attention. So you see, and I hope somebody I would go on a date with would see that and be like, okay, that's very emotionally mature, or he's very self-aware of himself, and he worked on something he didn't notice was a flaw. Maybe people thinking he wasn't listening or being active in the conversation. The other way, where somebody's like, people always think that I'm a mean guy or that I can be an abrasive guy, but I just like to be demanding, or I just like to have conviction when I do things. And I mean, if you don't want to have conviction, if you don't want to be demanding, that's on you. And like, I can't control how I speak. If I'm aggressive, I'm aggressive. Like, if it's coming off like that, it's like, okay, you're just basically defending your actions and how you move, which we are who we are. But it's not sounding like you have a place of growth. It's not sounding like you wanna maybe see somebody else's perspective. Maybe you can be aggressive, but maybe you are too aggressive. How can you tone that down? How can you take a beat? How can you soften your approach? There's ways that we can evolve. That doesn't mean you have to particularly change who you are, but I feel like it's a way of improving who you are. That's an example of like, okay, does he seem like someone that's open to evolving and growing and being a better version of themselves? Or are they stuck with who they are and they're very much in that phase of like, I am who I am, you gotta deal with it. Because I've dated guys like that before too, where it's like, I just am who I am. I know it may be unhealthy, or I know this affected me in my childhood, but I'm not trying to grow from it, and I'm gonna use that as an excuse to continue to be who I am. That's somebody I wouldn't want to date. if there's no self-awareness, no introspection, no self-growth coming from this type of question, not saying I wouldn't go on a second date, but right there it's a red flag to me. Be like, are you someone that's actually going to want to evolve and grow in a mature way and have that thought process to look at yourself in the mirror and see where you can grow and maybe see where somebody may have had some correct thoughts about how you present yourself? I think there's great ways to look at this question. I think there's great ways to digest it. And that's just some of the few ways. So curious to know what you guys think, what you can digest from this question. I definitely think that this can reveal a lot about where this person is emotionally. I definitely think it also shows what their experience is in dating. I feel like it's still just a foundation or a setup of the question that allows it to be more them speaking from an identity standpoint versus what someone said about them and they're just regurgitating it back to you. That's my tea for that one. And like I said, drop in the comments, let me know what you guys think of this question. Would you guys use it on a first date? Have you guys used it before when dating? And what do you really think the meat you would get out of it if you were able to ask this question on a first date? So definitely gonna be using this on my next first date. Definitely will. And like I said, y'all, we're in this together. All the questions we go through, I've been doing research, finding these questions, working through these questions, and I'm gonna be using them. I'm still single, I'm still dating, and I also just wanna get better at it. So, and I also just wanna have a better foundation with asking questions and being curious to my partner when I do get in a relationship, because I think communication and being candid and asking questions is key to have a strong relationship. So that's my tea there. All right, y'all, so on to the next phase. Okay, so phase 2 will always be called a few dates in. So think, okay, we had our first date. Now we're probably maybe 4, 5, 5th, 6th day in. That's where you can throw a question like this in. So this question is, what do you usually need more of once you start liking someone? Which I think is great, because once you're in that 4th, 5th, 6th date mode, you're liking each other. If you want a 4th, 5th, 6th date, you like that person, they like you, y'all are vibing in some way, there's chemistry, there's something going on. I hope you wouldn't spend your time that many hours not liking someone. So I definitely think you're vibing. I think it's a great question because now it shows that you are leading into I'm really feeling this, I'm liking the vibe, so let me understand what you need more of, and then vice versa, explain what you need more of when you start liking someone. I think it's a great question. I think a lot of people have unspoken needs or unspoken things they think someone should do when they like them and vice versa. This allows you to already set the tone of have an open forum to talk about those things that I think could set the foundation for a really positive dating experience and then ultimately maybe a relationship. So I think this conversation go a lot of different ways, and I think just it opening the door for everything not to be unspoken and then allowing there to be more of a reassurance vibe versus a pressure vibe, I think is also great. I also think this is great because it really showcases, yet again, emotional awareness or not. So this person is like, yeah, I've noticed when I really like someone, I really need them to be more attentive to things I talk about when it comes to my family. I have a really intense relationship with my family, and I really need that support there when it comes to my partner. So when I'm really liking someone, if I start mentioning things about my family, I just really want that person to remember and ask questions and follow up. And I know that I need that. I know I get resentful if you're not acknowledging that part of my life because my family's so important. So it's like a very, honest way of being emotionally aware and speaking about what their needs are. And I think that's great. I also feel like you can see if someone takes it more into a very external validation, more also let you know maybe if they need a lot more external validation when it comes to, you look beautiful today, you look gorgeous today, I love when you wear that outfit, or I love when you said that, babe, that was so cool. Whatever it is, it could be external, it could be internal, but for them to know those things, to be emotionally aware and say, hey, it may sound corny, but I need to be told that I'm cute and beautiful, that's what I want from my partner, I want to hear that. Still early on, but at least you're understanding what emotionally triggers them, what emotionally makes them excited, what emotionally drags them down. I feel like this is a great question to get that information, especially when it's a positive conversation about them liking you or you liking them. Because ultimately, when you don't know and you're still learning each other, I think it's hard to... Because at the end of the day, when you still didn't know each other, you don't really know each other. And I don't think you should put, I don't think you should put everything out on the table. I think you should allow people to surprise you and for them to also show love in the way that they know how to show love or like to you. But I also feel I think a lot of relationships, particularly romantic ones, I feel like they ultimately fail because people don't really express how they want to be loved or want to be liked. They don't express the things that actually make them happy when they're in a relationship, when they're dating someone. They sometimes expect somebody to read their mind and do those things. I think we underestimate how much we think people should know. And I think we do think that people should read our mind about so many things, but I think so much of the world can be solved by just communicating and being vocal. We all have different likes as people. I know there's a lot of women out there who don't care about flowers at all. There's some women who love flowers. There's some women who love chocolates. There's some women who love other ways of gifts. It isn't. Not to spear two heads a hetero land, but I'm here for everyone. This is a conversation about everybody. It's not just gay or hetero. I definitely think that it's worth us all just taking an extra step to voice some things that we like to see from other people. Voice things that make us happy, just so that everybody's aware, so that it's not always this mystery game and that you're not setting yourself up to be upset when it doesn't happen, when you can actually acknowledge it. Now, I don't think you should be a broken record. I don't think that you should always have to repeat yourself. And if someone genuinely, it's like basic level foundation things that we pretty much are pretty like normal societal things when it comes to dating that they're not doing, and you have to keep preaching, that's a different story. I definitely think that's something that you could have concern about. But I definitely think these specific niche like needs we all have as people, I think that we should speak up about it. Because we all have very unique interests and things that we like in life, so we can't expect everyone to know all those things. And like I said, this also just gives you more insight about them so that you can start clocking things. And this is a way that you get to log something you like about them. Because let's be honest, when I do date guys, I do keep a log in my phone, just so because my memory is not, I'm not Google. So sometimes I do note things in my phone. When I'm dating a guy and he's like, oh my God, I love this chocolate, I love this flavor, I put it in my phone. When he's always wearing hats, I'll put in my phone like, my bae loves hats. He's always wearing this color. Like, I had a list. Oh, this is not a list they should have access to. It's just something for me. It's just like, I like this person, I want to keep getting to know this person, or if I end up falling in love with them, and I just want to be able to just quickly reference, like, it's my bae's birthday, what should I get him? Oh, da-da-da-da. And also, when you're going through the list, you gotta remember where you were, when you guys talked about it. It's just like a cute thing for me. Not for everybody. But I noticed for me, it's making my man, when I've had them briefly, making him feel special or just remembering certain things. I just like it makes it easier for me, and even for my mind. I'm not thinking and second guessing and wondering. I already have it noted down. So that's a little date hack that I'm just offering. Use it if you want, use it if you don't, but that's my little date hack, and I feel like it kind of ties right into this phase 2 question. Okay, so with that, let me know what you guys think about this question. Will you guys be using it on a few dates in? Have you asked questions like this when you're on a date? Like what do they need more? Will they like someone? Or how can you show them that you like them? Let me know in the comments. All right, on to phase 3. So phase 3 is like we are in the developing, starting phase of a relationship. I would say like early on relationship. This is not deep in. This is us like, y'all said y'all are together. So the question is, when something feels off for you, how do you usually handle it? So I think this is gold at this point in your relationship. I think this is gold on being emotionally aware and you really trying to be serious and having real conversations about your relationship, but also just showing this person that you are not playing. Like, what do we need to have an understanding of between each other so that we can make sure our conflict does not go off the rails? Some people, you can clock their T when you ask them questions like this because they still want to come off as like the nice person, or they want to come off as this perfect partner. But a real person would be like, when something feels off for me, I'm gonna pause and I'll be like, what's up? We gotta talk. I'm noticing something off. What's T? Because to answer the question, for me, that's how I am. When something feels off, I'm gonna clock it. If we're out and about and I'm not trying to have an argument, which I'm not really ever trying to do arguments, it's really not my MO. Maybe I'll wait till after the movie. Maybe we can kiki at dinner. I'll wait until after dinner. Maybe. But once we get in our car, or once we get to like a calm moment of the night, we're walking, maybe back to the car, we're taking a walk. Maybe something feels off, something feels wrong. What's the T? What's going on? Or I noticed this when I said this. It kind of went left or whatever. What's T? I'm not going to wait too long. I'm not the type of person that likes to let things wait. I like to give people space if they need it, though, and I like to take space. So if I bring something up like this and the person needs to take space, or I need to take space, fair, but at least it's been brought to the attention. So that's how I am. I'm not someone who likes to scream and yell. I am someone who likes to actually talk through things, understand things, give time and space to things. So that's how I would handle it. And through this, you really get to understand would they be moving toward having a conversation about what's wrong, or would they be pulling back into like silence and not speaking on it? Because the silence treatments and all that, I don't do that. I don't know about y'all, I don't do that. When people get silent, they always talk to me, I'm asking them what's wrong, and they can't tell me what's wrong. I don't like that. That pisses me off. Even with friends, don't like it. And that's been an end to some of my friends. I'm not about to keep asking you what's wrong, and then you finally tell me what's wrong, and you've been mad at me the whole time, and like, no. And then I gotta recoup what happened. Nah. Also, it shows you their comfort level when it comes to having tension, and whether it would have to escalate or whether it be just avoidance. In any relationship, there's gonna be tension at times. Friendships, relationships, is gonna be tension. And how that person decides to handle that and people's comfort level with that tension really shows their maturity level. Because we all know it's gonna happen. So, yes, there's always gonna be some awkwardness, but I understand this may be an issue for you. Let's talk about it. I understand these things happen. That to me is a comfort level. That's on a mature level. To have discomfort around it, like, I didn't really want to say anything because I didn't want to cause any problems, but this bothered me, or I was nervous. That to me is immature. Because we are grown, we should be able to be comfortable having a conversation, comfortable with a degree of at least addressing the conversation. I'm not saying things can't be uncomfortable, because uncomfortable conversations are uncomfortable conversations. But like my therapist always says, like I said this so many times on my channel, you only get better at uncomfortable conversations by having uncomfortable conversations. So you'll definitely get a feel for that. You also can kind of get a feel like, will they actually be able to work through the issue, or will they try to avoid it, or will it escalate? If they're like, oh, I get heated, I get mad, I gotta address it, I start arguing. I'm the type of person that'll argue. And I've been on dates before that say that, and I'm like, I'm not trying to argue with no dude, so this is gonna be an L for me. But or some people like, well, I just don't really like talking about stuff. I probably have the type of that hold it in for a minute. Some people do avoid. And we all know there's a lot of avoidant attachment styles out there that people have. So we know that avoidance can be a thing. But I think those are things that you can look out for. My biggest takeaway from this question is like, there's definitely different ways we all communicate. There's different ways that we receive and pour out our communication. But I think when things get delayed, that's the biggest issue. So anyone that's trying to avoid or not trying to speak on things, I think that's a red flag to really, really think about. Because ultimately, clarity prevents conflict. It does. That's why I'm so big on communication. People say I'm blunt. Everybody says, my family says I'm blunt, my friends says I'm blunt, but everybody says I'm very direct. It's because I feel like there's just less confusion in life. There's less just like nonsense in life when you address things, when you're clear about things, when you're blunt about things. Even at work, I feel like a lot of my employers and my bosses weren't the biggest fans of me because they would ask me to do something. I'm like, well, can you explain exactly how you want it done? Because I want to know exactly how to do it. And then they stutter and trying to explain it. But then you want me to do it and then bring it back to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing all that. Explain it to me exactly how you want it done. I have a thought process and I'll solution it for you. But we're gonna sit here and you're gonna explain to me how exactly you want this done or exactly what your thought process was, because I'm not reading minds. And I've noticed in life when you try to read somebody's mind, you try to assume, what do you do? Well, you make an ass out of you and me. But it just always is confusion and just a mess. So I definitely think clarity prevents that conflict and guessing creates it. Guessing and assuming creates all the conflict in the world. And that's why I do not like people that cannot have conviction and cannot be blunt and cannot be real about what's going on. We're not guessing, we're not reading minds, we're not solving mysteries. This is not Scooby-Doo and the gang. This is a relationship. And I'm not gonna be wondering and guessing and hooping and hollering and questioning all the time. You see, I feel some type of way about that. Y'all, I hate when people are not clear. And when people don't want to communicate, when people want to avoid stuff, like, let's address the elephant in the room, seriously. Okay, so definitely let me know your thoughts on that question in the comments. If you agree, do you usually handle yourself like this in relationships? Do you ask people how they move when there's a conflict or something that feels off? Have you had those conversations? Do you leave it up to chance or leave it up to mystery? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. Okay, so the last question, like I said, which we'll always have, will be a question from my couples that are locked in here. And shout out to y'all, couples. We love to see it. We love to see love. But I definitely want to propose this question at the end because I definitely think a lot of couples that are in relationships, they don't always ask questions. They also sometimes feel when they're at a certain level in the relationship, there's complacency and comfort where we know each other so well, we don't need to ask any more questions. We are always growing and evolving. We are never at pause as humans. So I think there's always things to be curious about when it comes to your partner or even just the standing of your relationship. So this question with regard to our expectations theme is, what expectations have we never actually said out loud? What's great about this question is that you get to eliminate some assumptions you may have had. about your relationship. This also should showcase a safe place for you to have this conversation if you have been with someone and you feel like you guys are really have a developed relationship. And I think what's really important here is that when you listen, and why this question matters, is that you can understand like the stress behavior between your partner if certain things haven't been addressed, because expectations turn into resentment, it turns into silence, it turns into control. Resentment, once it's there, it's done. When someone already resents you, it's too late. So, because resentment is something really hard to come out of. When you resent someone, because resentment is built off of like, it's like a snowball effect. It's like, doop, 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 doop. It's like this compounding thing that makes me resent you. So I really feel like this can help figure out if there's any expectations that have turned in ready, or if there's anything that someone has been silent about and they have not brought it up, or they are just really, really scared to. I think there's a lot that can come out of this when it comes to this expectation. And this is not to cause problem in anybody's relationship. This is all to bring that clarity in. And hey, I'm no expert. This is something that I've understood just even with my friendships when it comes to expectations and even family. So I think this question can be useful for a lot of things. This is not just something you can use in a relationship, but I think it's all connected, and that's kind of where I'm bringing it from. In the past, when I may have not said anything or had certain expectations, especially with friends, it builds resentment. My therapist always would tell me like, hey, once you get that clarity how your friend is, you have to now determine if that's something that you can accept with them and move on and be their friend. That is no longer their burden to bear. If they kind of let you know, this is who I am, this is how I move. And I'm not talking about things that are like crazy or your friend is just like a piece of shit. So we just all have different ways that we move. Like, so for instance, some of my friends, they love to plan trips. Some of my friends hate to plan trips. And I sometimes will go on trips with people and then be upset when they didn't want to plan the trip. But then it's like, my friend has told me like, I'm not good at planning trips. I don't like planning trips. It's not my MO. Once you understand those things, then it takes the pressure off. I know my friend don't like to plan trips, but I want to go on this trip with her. I'm going to plan it. I'm going to do it. And now you take that resentment away. So I think just talking through these things, it brings up clarity. It brings up things that you guys can address. It also brings up ways you can find solutions. I feel like if you don't ever talk about anything, how can you find the solution? And that's one thing. I was listening to this podcast years ago. This couple, they've been married for like 10 years. And they were talking about like how they get through their marriage and how they've been together for so long. And they were just talking about how like they have weekly meetings every week. They have like relationship touch base meetings every week where they talk about their relationship. They talk about, was there anything that happened this week that caused concern or caused issue? They also give each other wins of the week with their relationship. It was like a really cute little thing. So I told myself, whenever I am like in my love, my relationship with my man, we are in it, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing check-ins. I'm going to be curious. And hey, it doesn't have to be structurally every week. Maybe it's like once a month or every 2 weeks or like every weekend we just check in, whatever it is. I think that's just a great way to keep that curiosity going, to level set and make sure that resentment isn't building. I think there's so many great things that can come from that. And I really challenge everybody, even with friendships, to really think about this question and really see how you can utilize it in all different kinds of relationships. Because all long-term relationships are hard. Friends, like I said, family, your parents, all of them. And learning how to navigate through them over the years is the way that you have a strong relationship. And I think that's why I wanted to pose this question. So I'm going to leave that there for the couples to marinate and play with. Definitely always want to keep the couples on lock. This conversation is for everyone. I love talking about dating. It's something that I know I have, like I said, I have trouble with. It's something that I'm trying to get better at. I am currently in therapy, working through how I can get better at that. But I think if we continue to have the conversations as a community about dating, we can have easier conversations with our partner and our future partners about dating. Because ultimately, good relationships are not built on guessing. They are built on asking. They are built on that communication. So everyone, make sure you date like you mean it.